Okay. All right. So actually, you know what? I'm going to pause the recording for a second. Um, and then the AI summary is on. Okay. All right. So the purpose of this meeting is, well, first of all, it's not an official meeting. It's just making space to give people an opportunity to ask about some to give people a chance to ask about some changes to the bylaws and constitution that we're proposing. So we've done this once before when I was president, and I'm definitely happy to do it again. It's actually not very difficult to change our bylaws in the AALU. All we need to do is to let the council know, and it's just a simple 60-day notice as to what the changes are going to be. And then we need to let the membership know. And so we did that, and then we vote on them. But it's almost too easy. So I think, because then it could make, if people don't understand when you get to the meeting, then it can be not go how you want it to go. So the last time we did this, I offered members just like pop-up Q&A opportunities so that people can understand what it is that we're trying to do, feel included, and also suggest other changes. So I did get a few questions, and I answered them to the people who asked me, and I can share those with you guys now. So I think first it might be helpful to walk through. I'm going to just quickly walk through what the changes were. Last time I did this, I was all fancy. I had slides. This time I haven't been able to do that. So we're going to get the low energy budget version, but hopefully it'll still be helpful.
Well, you have a question in the chat that is
What are
asking.
affinity groups? Okay. Yes. So I'm going to, how about if I read through the changes first, and then I'm just going to, actually, I can just put these up here. I'm going to summarize the changes first, and then I'll take questions. So, and hopefully, I did put the link. So if you could open the link and you could follow along. Does anybody need the link sent again? If so, maybe Camille, you could put it in the chat, the link to the that was included in the invitation. But the first change is just to, we have found that we need the financial secretary to be an elected officer. We would like the financial secretary to, right now, Tawana Frank is the financial secretary. She attends our executive committee meetings. It's been really helpful for the financial team to operate as a team, and she's been an integral part of it. So that's the first change. The second proposed change is to create an assistant treasurer. The thinking behind that one is that we won't necessarily have anyone in that role, but it's kind of a backup person if the president feels that we do need to have an assistant to assist the treasurer. Then it would give the president the authority to appoint a assistant treasurer. I will say that we definitely have found last fiscal year and going into this fiscal year so far, the need to do that. Because just for a number of things that have popped up and the treasurer wasn't able to be around. So this would create that as an official position rather than the president just saying, oh, somebody is acting, because we may need someone to represent us to the IRS, for example, or to do any number of things, work with the accountant. And so it's been really helpful to have the assistant treasurer role as an appointed role. The next one is going to it has to do with the financial secretary and noting that the number of officers would change if we make that change. The next one is pertaining to the affinity groups. And I'm gonna skip the detail of explaining what it is because I actually wrote out an answer, a really detailed answer. I'm gonna share that. So I'm just gonna run through this and then I'll go straight to that and that'll answer your question, Teresa. So essentially though, this is going to recognize an affinity group as well as continue to recognize chapters. Let's see. We also wanted to make sure that the financial secretary is a bonded officer, requiring insurance bonding for the financial secretary. Presently, the financial secretary is bonded, the chair of our finance committee is bonded, but we're just putting it into the bylaws to make it a requirement. The next one has to do with our policy for countersigning checks. We very rarely use checks. This is really, really, really old. So this is going to delete language about written checks, which has become obsolete. And it's going to instead note that we have to have some documentation as to two officers agreeing to a transaction, either a reimbursement or an expenditure before it comes out of our treasury. And we have options because we've needed options. So it would either need to be the treasurer or the assistant treasurer, the financial secretary, or the president or the vice president. And it changes, like if I'm getting reimbursed, then, we could have the vice president or another officer. Sometimes the treasurer is getting reimbursed. So it just depends. But this would give us flexibility, but always ensure that we have two people. And we actually have created forms so that we have some internal controls about this, but all of the transactions are like electronic now. No, rarely, we do have checks, but rarely do we write checks. And when we do write checks, by the way, the bank doesn't require two signatures on the check. So we still need the documentation of two officers agreeing to the transaction. The next one is pertaining to regional directors. It is just clarifying that when we do create the affinity groups, should that pass, the regional directors would have responsibility for supporting them. The next one under Chapter 5, committees, recognizes the financial secretary as a member of the executive committee. That would give us 8 people on the executive committee. It would retain the quorum at 4. And it also recognizes the president as needing to, or it says should. So going forward, the president would be required to appoint a non-voting chapter president or a chapter representative to the executive committee. And the reasoning behind that is because there's no, the executive committee is authorized to act on behalf of the council, and there's no chapter voice that's heard when we're doing this. This is a pretty significant, we already have had a significant change with the executive committee in my administration, because before me, there were only 3 members of the executive committee. So we've made the executive committee more robust, more representative of the entire AALU. So we have presently on the executive committee, the president, the vice president, the secretary, the treasurer, and the 3 largest commit, or I guess, I don't know about largest, but I think important committees for the AALU. So the chair of the finance committee, the chair of the membership committee, and the chair of the program committee are also on the executive committee. We meet monthly because this organization cannot run on 2 member meetings a year and 3 alumni council meetings a year, but we can't call the alumni council together every month. So we have monthly executive committee meetings. So this one is just to add a chapter voice to those meetings. We've actually been operating that way. Drew from the Central Jersey chapter has been the chapter voice. And I think Ben Butcher will be coming to our meetings going forward. The auditing committee. This one is just a small change about the auditing committee. A lot of this is like, we already do this, but it's just putting it in the bylaws. Chapter authority is establishing a process to recognize these affinity groups. And then the last change would be because we need to have dissolution language. If the AALU is dissolved, then it would transfer money to the Lincoln University Foundation, and requiring additional assets to be disposed of via court process. So that is the list. And now I will take questions. And the first question was, what is an affinity group? Good question. What I'm going to do is, I actually received that question in writing in advance. And I am going to share, let me see. Okay. I'm actually going to put in the chat the exact language that I shared, because first of all, it's an excellent question, because I really didn't realize that it wasn't spelled out as clearly as I would have liked. So thanks to the advanced questions that I received, we're definitely going to add this language. So I put it in the chat. But affinity groups are, they're groups of alumni of Lincoln who have a common interest and want to interact or network after leaving the university based on what their common interests were or are. So an affinity group might be the cheerleading alumni, the alums from the graduate school, track team alums.
A laser.
Yeah, the laser alums. That's a great example because they're pretty active. So what's happening is just sort of organically, I will say, is that alums are interacting where they are comfortable. And sometimes they do this, and they do this instead of even being involved in the AALU. And so we have a couple of challenges, and there's another reason why that I'll say we want to be able to leverage and capture all alumni interest in Lincoln. Also, some of these alums, like the laser alums, like Nandi just brought up, they do a lot of great stuff for Lincoln. Laser alums raised a pretty significant scholarship. I don't know if it was last homecoming or the homecoming before that, but they do a lot of great things. The cheerleading alums were out at CIAA last year. So there's a lot of positive energy. Um, we would like for all of that to be a part of, you know, the alumni association in some way. Just like, I mean, it will be separate, just like what chapters do is separate, but it would still be a way that would be that it would be a way to sort of bring in what they do and kind of make it um, I think it would be a way to like formally recognize what they are doing through the alumni association, and I think it would also support what alumni relations is doing as well in recognizing alumni groups. Another challenge that we're having as an association is we are always looking for ways for alums to show their interest in Lincoln, show how they are working to advance the interests of the association and Lincoln. So showing camaraderie with each other, as well as trying to do things to advance the Lincoln mission. So that has been a measure that we have used to qualify people for running for office. So we have looked at people's activities within a chapter and said, okay, they are active in a local chapter. They should be able to run for national office or run for an alumni trustee position. And we have utilized that as actually a qualification, a criteria to allow them to actually run. Because one thing about our bylaws and the university bylaws, we are connected through this process of recognizing alumni trustees. We have an alumni trustee right here with us today, Lisa Johnson. And we also have another trustee who is an alum, but not an alumni trustee. But I think that because even Nandi, who's a university trustee, you know, it's just aggregating our focus to support Lincoln helps to deepen the impact that we're able to make as alums. And I think some of that, was going on even, Nandi, before you became a university trustee.
I'm actually
Oh yeah, you're a
yeah,
Commonwealth
right.
trustee. That's right.
Commonwealth governor appointed. Yeah.
Right. But still,
Same point. Same
it's the
point.
same
Yeah.
point, because it's like, we were all really focused on some challenging issues at the time. And just us all banding together, deepens our impact. So that's the idea behind creating affinity groups. The other thing about it, Reverend Hoover, is that we so my son has become a Nittany Lion. He's a second-year student at Penn State, and I'm going to tell you, as soon as he was accepted, I'm getting stuff in the mail from the Alumni Association, like, you're ensure your future Nittany Lion success. Join the Alumni Association, recruiting me to join their Alumni Association to help further their his success. And so it got me really curious about some of the things that they do. And of course, that's ginormous. Penn State is a whole, lifestyle, actually, which I didn't know about until now. And it's like, oh, wow. But one of the things that they do is they have these groups. They don't exactly call them affinity groups, but it's almost exactly the same concept. And it's almost like, I don't want to, one of my goals when I became president, I wanted to really grow our membership, but I don't want to feel like I'm competing against what alums just naturally want to do. If the laser alums were all, I mean, I actually am a laser alum myself, and I do have an interest in I have an interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics at Lincoln. And I just have an interest in the same things that they have an interest in. And so I don't want to be fighting against what people's natural interests are. It doesn't mean that I can't also be a member of the DC MAC chapter. It doesn't mean I can't also be active in the National Alumni organization. So that's what is kind of behind this. A lot of the SGA, like sometimes I meet SGA, I was also an SGA. I meet students who are SGA and they're like, oh my gosh, they feel connected to me because I was an SGA vice president when I was there. So this, also I had a meeting with the admissions director and also the director at SACE, whose name is escaping me right now. I don't know, Nandi or Lisa, if you.
Edison.
It was Edison. It was Edison, and he has a strong, strong interest in us doing this because he really wants to find a way to sort of, sanction, recognize the graduate alums. So sometimes we have alums of the graduate school that are part of the our chapters, and they can still do that. But it is a different experience, and some of them didn't. A lot of them didn't go there undergrad, but they want to connect. He was saying they really want to connect as alums of SACE. And so this would be another way to, to kind of recognize that, yet still recognize it in the AALU, and then also let them, we need a broader pool for alumni leaders. We really need a broader pool for alumni leaders. When I ran, there was no one running against me. When right now we have very few applications. For all of our officer positions are open. We don't have applications. And unfortunately, one of the things that we did, I think shot ourselves in the foot a little bit. So we had previously in our bylaws, we had that you had to be a member of a local chapter for at least a year in order to run for alumni trustee or to run for national office, unless you lived in an area where there was no chapter. That became unworkable. There were a lot of arguments about it because it created like a two-tier system. So if somebody happened to live in, Ohio versus somebody that happened to kind of live in the Philadelphia area, maybe 50 miles away, but now you have like, are they qualified to run? Are they not qualified to run? And then the person who happened to live in Ohio or Iowa or just some random place, they were automatically qualified, even if they had no connection to Lincoln. They hadn't been involved in anything. They didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden, they would just pop up and want to run for alumni trustee. It would usually happen with alumni trustee. So because of that, we created this category called member at large, and we allowed anyone to be qualified for office no matter where you live, as long as you become a member at large. The member at large would kind of connect you to what's been going on. You'd be coming to our meetings, you'd be getting our correspondence. So that was the idea. So we had this lofty, wonderful idea, but it failed because no one became a member at large. So now we're stuck with this situation where we have no members at large. We have, but we still have this requirement that you have to be a member of a local chapter or a member at large to be able to be qualified to run for office. Affinity groups would kind of open this up. It would really let people continue to do what they're doing. If the Laser alums want to, do what they do, they can just do what they do. And we would recognize, they would just, if they wanted to become associated with the Alumni Association, they wouldn't really have to do anything. They wouldn't have to, like chapters don't pay to become recognized. We just recognized the chapter, but then we encourage, and they would encourage their members to become national members. And we do need people to become national members. So actually it would benefit us more. We would go to the Laser alums, for example, and would say, come on, you guys need to be national members. And then that would give us more people to recruit alumni trustees from, more people to recruit national officers from. So that's what the idea is behind the affinity groups. I know I've talked a long time. I will stop talking and take questions.
Yeah, Madam President, this has been, with respect to the affinity groups, I'm hearing that they have interest in common, but it has to be some benefit or some contribution from that group to the university. That seems to be the link pin. Is that right?
There's no requirement for that.
Okay.
But you know, and however, I will say, like, just like there's no requirement for a chapter to there's very few requirements for what chapters should do. I think chapters have to meet twice a year. Now, chapters naturally try to benefit Lincoln. Our missions are aligned.
Right.
And I think that's what usually happens with these affinity groups, although not necessarily. Like, I don't know if actually, I want to say at CIAA, maybe the cheerleading alums, maybe they were doing a fundraiser for the current cheerleaders, if I recall. I'm not 100% sure. But there's a group that I've been talking to, and they call themselves like I-95 or something like that. Like, they just all road trip to Lincoln together. And if they wanted to sort of formally be an affinity group, you know, I don't know. I think that once we establish them, we can create more around some more details. It wouldn't be appropriate for the bylaws, but we could create more details about like what requirements are. We do have some more details, like we have a chapter handbook. We could have more, there's sort of like policies and procedures in a way around what chapters should do, what affinity groups should do. But I don't think we should be too prescriptive, just like we're not prescriptive with chapters. Some chapters have their own incorporation, like the New York chapter. They're a formal incorporated chapter. But other chapters like us, and I think BMC, and you know, we don't have separate incorporation. So we don't really dictate, but so much. I would say that we have had some challenges with chapters, and chapters have volunteerism issues, just like we're having volunteerism issues. So I do think that, you know, one of the things we need to clean up in the association is that the association needs a stronger MOU with Lincoln. We don't actually have one, so we need one with Lincoln. And then the chapters need an MOU with the nationals. You know, there's got to be some minimum things that we all agree should be done to be a chapter. And the affinity groups would be no different. But we're not there yet. Right now, we're just trying to think of ways to expand interest in volunteering and interacting and supporting and advancing the Lincoln mission.
Thank you. Are we moving on, Madam President, to another subject? Or are we finished with the affinity?
Well, I wanted to make sure that Teresa's question was answered.
Okay.
To your satisfaction, Teresa? She might be.
Yes.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions on that topic?
Madam President, did you hear me say that my question was answered?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, thank you.
Okay, but one other question, is that why you're saying they should be members of alumni association as opposed to shall, changing the shall to should? Back in the very beginning of your change in membership? You mentioned all the groups that shall be part of the alumni association. Life members, members at large, chapters, and you added affinity groups.
Okay.
You changed it from shall to should, and so I just assumed that you put should because of the affinity group addition.
You're looking at the actual document?
Yeah.
Was it on this that I'm showing?
Yes, it was the actual document. In the very
And where is it?
I'm looking now, but it's not to me that important. I
think it's under Article 7 down at bylaws.
No, actually it's under chapter membership, section 1, classification. The first line, it says the membership categories of the AALU PHA should shall include. Go under chapter 1, membership, section 1, classification.
You're correct, and I'm assuming you are changing it to should because of the affinity groups.
Okay.
Right there.
Oh, here. Okay, I see.
But I don't even, when I think about it, I don't see affinity.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry. No, the reason why, I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna have to check with the membership chair, Eric B. Coates, but I believe that the reason why we put this doesn't have anything to do with affinity groups, because these are just the membership classifications to be a national member.
Okay.
So to be a national member, it's saying it should be instead of it shall be, because we don't have any members at large.
Okay. Okay.
So it was just kind of recognizing that it's just kind of recognizing that we don't have any members at large. And quite frankly, what some people wanted to do, some people wanted to just delete. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you. Some people wanted to just delete the member at large option. And I mean, I'm not super opposed to that since we don't have any, but on the other hand, I'm not quite sure that we really did our full, best effort in trying to explain what a member at large should be and get people to be one. So I think that if we have it like that should be, we would have more flexibility. We could just temporarily maybe remove it from an option when people are signing up to be members, or we could have it there. We can kind of decide later what to do, but it wouldn't require us to have it since nobody has taken advantage of it.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
In that regard, Madam President, the at-large, if it stays or goes, well, let's say if it stays, did you want to hyphenate? It seemed like part of it was hyphenated in certain sections and other sections were not hyphenated.
Oh, okay.
Just for consistency.
Okay. I guess, thanks to Trustee Jones Clement, the AI summary will get Ben Butcher's suggestion. that we hyphenate member at large consistently throughout the document. Thank you very much. I'll be sure to capture that, make those edits. And of course, I'm so old school. I was like, oh, I need to write this down. I need a pen.
You're covered.
Are there any other questions on any other parts?
Just my question, statement actually. I heard that you talked about the treasurer, the assistant treasurer being somebody who would be appointed. It's not a problem, but if the assistant treasurer is not working with the treasurer and the treasurer is not available, the assistant should be cognizant of the activities so that he or she could step right in. So I think not to have that person in place in the beginning is going to be probably problematic, or could be, if something were to happen to the treasurer and nobody can step in right away to handle whatever the situation might be.
Maybe we should, because just honestly, what we've been doing now, and we can't get the treasurer, I will appoint the chair of the finance committee to serve as like in an acting capacity, because we got to be able to act. And that person is bonded and used to be the treasurer, so it works out. Maybe since the chair of the finance committee is on the executive board, maybe we should, I mean, we could limit it and say that that person should be the acting treasurer, because that would put us down by one person on the executive committee.
Madam Chairperson, may I say something?
Yes.
I'm Dwayne Holman. I'm from class 77. In observance to what Mr. Butcher just said, I think what you need to do is have somebody in training, somebody in waiting, so that they learn, they know all of what the treasurer is doing. So you need somebody to be working in step with the treasurer, so that if that treasurer should, whatever reason, become incapacitated or unable to perform his duties any longer, the treasurer or assistant treasurer will be able to step right in and perform those duties. Somebody will have to be happenstance to serve the capacity of the treasurer in the absence of the treasurer. That might not work too well for the organization. So I think you need to make the assistant treasurer a permanent position, and somebody needs to assume that job.
Okay.
It's not something you want to take, and that would also serve well for the secretary too, because I belong to several organizations, and what we find out is if our primary should ever have a heart attack, stroke, die, whatever the case may be, or whatever, they may not be able to serve their job. They need to have somebody be able to step right in. And so they need to have somebody who they have contact with that knows the job. So that's just a recommendation.
Okay, that recommendation is received. What I will do is, after this meeting and reviewing the AI summary, I'm going to work with Audrey Fields as the chair of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee. So we've been working on this together, but she was unable to make it today. And we wanted to offer one Q&A on a Saturday and one on a weeknight. So that's why we did this. I went ahead without her, but we'll take the recommendations and update the draft. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that recommendation. Are there any other questions or any other issues that anyone has to raise?
I just have one more that was, I think was only one place where it was mentioned about the word comprised as opposed to composed. And I saw throughout the document that compose was predominantly used, and there was a change proposed from compose to comprised. I was just curious about that and see if I can look at my notes and tell you exactly where that was. And unless somebody can get to it before I look through my notes. But it's just a consistency aspect.
Mhm.
And it was only one time that comprise was placed instead of compose, but compose was throughout the rest of the document. As far as committee membership and things of that nature.
Oh, the executive committee shall be comprised of.
Yes, and if that's the case, then I only saw that one
That's
mention.
that's actually a proposed change under section 2 describing the executive committee. The executive committee, you think we should leave it as shall be composed of the.
Yeah, only because rest of it had composed for other areas in the document. When the word was used, it was never a suggestion to change it to comprise. It was composed throughout, except for this one instance.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Noted. We'll take that recommendation as well. This is under chapter 5, section 2. Any other suggestions?
President,
Yes.
I just need a little bit of a clarification on Dwayne Holloman's statement, just from my own personal understanding of what he was actually asking, because I was looking at chapter 4, duties and officers, and then the explanation under section 5 of the assistant treasurer. And in that explanation, I kind of got confused with what he was actually suggesting.
Well, I think, so I'll speak to the way I understand it, Dwayne, and then, so I think what he was responding to was not necessarily what was written, but it was more so what I've said verbally, which is that that we may not fill the position. And he was kind of saying that we should have it as a position from the beginning because it will be difficult for someone to just kind of step in if they hadn't been involved all along.
Oh, thank you for that clarification.
And that would, I mean, a lot, our preference, that will be our preference. I mean, we have big volunteerism issues.
No, and you know what, Madam President, like I did make another comment, and this is indicative of several organizations because a lot of times, because of time constraints, certainly, and because of differences of thinking, people don't want to volunteer for different groups. I offered my to be a part of the AALU group some time ago, but I was told that I wasn't eligible to run for office, and I made a note of that in the chat because I had not been involved in a local chapter in the last year. Unbeknownst to me, I thought that I was active, but apparently my membership expired in the Philadelphia chapter. But I am a life member, so I said, well, wait, if I'm a life member, it doesn't necessarily require that I be a local member to run for office for the national organization. And I was told that I was just, I was just, I was unqualified for the position. So I just let it go. I said, wow, that's really deep because people I know we need people to do certain jobs. And I was one to, lend my services to the group. But I was told, for a mere formality like that to be excluded from consideration, I thought that was a little bit rough, And
I understand. And actually, so I mean, it wasn't a mere formality though. That was the rule. to run for office, for national office, either as a officer or as an alumni trustee. And so that whole diatribe I went on before about, you know, like the connection and making sure you're like up to date on what's going on with you know, with the alums in a group. Typically, historically, it's been a chapter or a group of Lions. You know, if we have the affinity groups going forward, it will be, you know, you're sort of interacting in a group of Lions. And so that's been the thinking. Like when I came into this organization, that was the rule. And some people, like, I mean, I know Lisa, you've been involved in the AALU for a long time, longer than me. And that's always been the way it was. The idea, though, I totally understand what you're saying and the sentiment behind it and agree with you. And that's why we created the membership at large category, because it was another way so that people didn't have to necessarily associate with a chapter, but took some additional step to show that, because what happens with life members, honestly, a lot of people will become a life member, then they just like, we don't hear from them again for ages. Our life membership's pretty reasonable. I don't think the cost has gone up in decades, really. Our membership dues have not increased. They're $35 a year, $500 for life membership. And so we're trying to get people who show some kind of connection.
I think the foundation of that is involvement. If for an alum who has graduated from Lincoln and has had absolutely no involvement with the university, and then come back and say, I want a high leadership position, like a trustee position, that's a problem. I'm a member of the Philadelphia Alumni Chapter. I, as an alum, will have an issue with that. Someone just coming in kind of off the street, so to speak, to try to get a high leadership position and has never been involved locally, if there's a chapter in their area, or even regionally, or even just come to alumni meetings and pay your dues somewhere. You know, okay. So I think that might have been the foundation of it. Just involvement, and even involvement in the alumni golf tournament every year. Even if you're not even in a chapter, but you're involved in that activity every year on the committee, or even if you choose to serve on alumni committees, but you're not necessarily a part of a chapter. I think that being involved is the foundation of what was the thinking back, you know,
when that rule was put into place.
So may I interject? So as like I said, I noted in the chat, I was at one point in time the second vice president, I believe it was a title. I have held so many titles, I don't know. Second vice president of the Philadelphia chapter for a while. And then it became like a little coup that happened down there. And all of a sudden I was bounced to the pavement like I had done nothing. So I said, okay, well, I'll leave Philadelphia chapter alone. I had to step away for that for a while. And then I was very involved in the Masons, deacon at church, and I had other things going on. So I said, well, you know, I have other things I need to do. But when the opportunity came, I did help with Bob Ingram when they were doing the thing with the AALU. I was working with them, this, that, and the other. And then they had a little thing that developed, these little problem that happened with the national chapter. I said, well, here it is. Because of this little scandal that happened, I said, I will be willing to step up and, you know, get in the game and, you know, help to rectify or redesign the charter, this, that, and the other, to make sure that we were in compliance. Certainly there were certain financial officers who were not bonded. The president at the time had a poor credit rate, and therefore he couldn't do this, that, and the other. So I said, well, look, I know a little bit about some of those things, so I'll be willing to step up and volunteer in my service and lend my knowledge to the situation. I would be willing to run for office. But when I put my name up there, it said, oh, no, you're not qualified because your membership expired a year ago. Okay.
Right.
It wasn't like I wasn't involved. It was like, I was like, okay.
I understand.
I got kicked in the curb. I mean,
I do understand. I do understand, but that is
you can get involved now and run for office. I said you can get involved now and join a chapter and run for office. So I
do belong to a chapter. I do belong to a chapter. I did talk to I was at the meeting when we had the thing for the meet and greet for the income freshmen. And I agree that I would, you know, if I wasn't financial, I mean, because of the different organizations, it's kind of hard to keep time. Like we had, if we were our fiscal year was a calendar year, it would be easy to remember when dues are due. But if you're not sending out a periodic reminder that, oh, yo, brother, homie, your dues are due, I said, well, here's $30, $35, no problem. But if you all of a sudden get your dues expire, you don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
let me interject. I want to recognize Teresa because her hand is raised. You're not wrong on that. You're not wrong. We have historically, even at the national level, not been people didn't understand fiscal years. I mean, there's all kinds of but so you're not wrong on that. I will say though, you can be involved. This is only for running for office. So that you can, and we still need people on the finance committee. We need people on the finance committee right now. So it was just the issue of running for office where that qualifying thing came in. But let me recognize Teresa.
Thank you, Madam President. I just had a couple of things to say when the gentleman talked about comprise and compose. Not to say that there was anything wrong with his interpretation. However, I believe comprise is the better phraseology for that particular provision. And there doesn't have to be a consistency because either one, to comprise is to be made up of, and to compose is to make up. So in terms of the consistency throughout the bylaws, depending on how it's going to be used, you can have comprised in one point and compose in another. So that's my, my comment there. And as to the young man who wants to run, now that you are getting back involved, put your hat in the ring again and see what happens. But, based on what the needs are and what your involvement is, that was then and this is now. You may have a different result, but at least now you know what you need to do. And I'm moving on from there. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Thank you. And I will say that, the sentiment behind all of this is just to open up opportunities for people to not only just be involved, but also to serve as leadership in leadership roles. So that was the member at large. That's also why I don't want to delete the members at large, because in that situation, if people understood it better and you were a member at large, you would have been qualified. So that's why I don't want to necessarily delete it. I think we maybe didn't give it a chance. We didn't promote it, but also this affinity group idea will also expand the qualifications and get more people who want to be involved where they are as laser alums or as gospel ensemble alums and still be qualified in that manner to run for national office, to lead this organization, and to be an excellent alumni trustee. Because even when you ran, Lisa, you had one person running against you, but then she had to drop out. And so even for alumni trustee, I mean, one year we had everybody wanted to be alumni trustee, but even for alumni trustee, we just are not getting, and we have to be a robust association or things could change. Things could change. Lincoln could be like, who are these people that you're sending us? Because they're just like random people. And so we need a larger pool to recruit from to lead this organization, both on the association side and as alumni trustees. So that's the sentiment.
Madam Chair, if I can add one item, Chapter 6, if you can pull that up for just a moment, just two minor
Okay,
We looked at chapter 6.
okay. Chapter authority.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay. If you could, are you looking at it?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Okay, I see number 6 where it says, let's see. Okay. Oh, here it is. Yeah, the council shall adopt guidelines for the establishment of, and I was thinking about the word any before of and new, where it says new / revitalize, any new revitalize, AAULU chapter or chapters. I think that the letter S after chapters and maybe any after the word of. In other words, the council shall adopt guidelines for the establishment of any new / revitalize AALUPA chapters. Chapter or
Okay.
chapters.
What number are you in section 6?
He's right here at the top.
It shall be so, okay.
Yeah, right there, right.
Okay.
Again, the council shall adopt guidelines for the establishment of the word any, perhaps added there, new / revitalize AALU / PA chapter or chapters. So just the letter S perhaps and the word any before new revitalize.
Okay. Okay, recommendation received. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time on a Saturday morning. I'm gonna stop the recording. La 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 la. I don't know what I did with the recording got hidden. Stop.